Hi guys, it is Mandy from Mandyleeplays. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing another discussion video, and I want to start off by saying thank you guys for the support on my previous discussion video. I want to discuss remakes, remasters, and is there too much of them or not enough? Before we get to the discussion, please hit that like button if you end up liking the video and consider subscribing. Alrighty, back onto the topic. Remakes and remasters have become a major trend in the gaming industry, specifically when it comes to JRPGs. It feels like every month we are seeing a beloved classic being brought back to life thanks to remakes and remasters. And there's even things like reboots and reimagining. But a specific question arises: are there too many JRPG remakes? And should we be looking forward to new IPs instead of the old IPs? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video, because I want to add a very nuanced discussion. So let's dive in. And please let me know, what do you think about all these remakes and remasters? Please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to have that discussion. So first, let's start off with the argument on why people are against remakes, remasters, reboots, reimagining, all that stuff. And when looking deeply with people who are not for remakes and remasters, they kind of make sense at some points, not gonna lie. Despite the benefits, there is a growing concern that we are getting bombarded with a lot of remakes and remasters. And one of the main arguments is it snuffles a lot of new IPs that could be made if they weren't wasting time making a remake or a remaster. For example, Persona 6. I've been wanting to hear anything Persona 6 for the longest time, but all we're getting is remakes, remasters, and we're potentially getting a Persona 4 remake. So I do understand the sentiment, especially the speed that they come out. It's like one after another, after another, after another. Let me look at the games I've beaten so far. Okay, so I played Dragon Quest HD2D Remake, which is a remake, Xenoblade Chronicles XDE. So I haven't beaten as much remakes or remasters, but I have a ton of them. Going back to the topic, remake fatigue is a concept that the audience feels disenchanted or overwhelmed with constant rehashing of existing stories and old IPs. The main takeaway I see from people can be broken down into three different arguments. The first argument is a cash grab. I'm looking at you, The Last of Us remake. That remake was honestly not needed. The second point is nostalgia bait, which basically goes with the first point. If you feel a lot of nostalgia towards a IP, then you're gonna want to play it, and they don't really need to do that much work for the game, so it's an easy win in their book. They don't have to sell you on a new IP or a new concept. It's already sold to you, and the more iconic the IP is, the easier it gets. And finally, it's not the original game, which is an argument that people will use to downplay remakes when they claim it's not like the original. You could tell by the tone of my voice that I don't really agree with this sentiment, which perfectly segues to the next point on debunking these arguments. Let's go over the cash grab argument, since in my opinion it's the easiest one to argue. For me, every game is trying to make it at the end of the day, especially nowadays with our current gaming economy. Everything is unpredictable, and sometimes remakes or remasters directly contribute to making a brand new game because they need resources for that. A good way for that is to release a remake everybody wants. But in saying that, I do know that there are some remakes and remasters that really lack that soul, and it feels like a hollow husk of a game. A good example is Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. It is nowhere near the peak that was Diamond and Pearl, and it was a one-to-one remake, so clearly there are developers who really don't give a damn about it and just do it to make profit. Anyways, the obligatory Pokemon rant. Check off. In my opinion, a good remake remaster should come out with the labor of love. My favorite is when they remake or remaster something and then they add content to that. Good example of this is a game I recently finished actually, and that is Xenoblade Chronicles XDE. So you have the original Xenoblade game, you could play it like you did back then, but they added a new epilogue to it with new cutscenes, new voice dialogues, and many more things to really make it feel like you're getting your bang for your buck. So that's when I feel like a remake or remaster is done right. Please don't take a drinking game on how many times I say remake and remaster. And while yes, some games are profitable, that doesn't mean they're lacking in heart. And I'm talking about dev teams. I'm not talking about shareholders or anything like that. They literally care less for the games that they invest in or the gamers. They just care about money. Now the next point, nostalgia baiting is pretty rampant, not gonna lie. Tapping into a fandom's want to see a character again is so powerful, especially as time goes on and the fan base has grown more old. Nostalgia is a part of the appeal to cater to older fans of the series and also to get new fans into the series. I know that for myself because I've gotten into a lot of series, but I also do understand the nostalgia of it all. Now the final argument is that a lot of fans really hold the original game to a pedestal and any remake or remaster cannot possibly reach it. In my opinion, the original game still exists, and for the people who still have their old hardware and game, you could still play it. So if you're really good with preserving your consoles and the games, and just forget that there's a remake or remaster. So all I'm saying is the original is always going to be there, and more times than not it is very respected because that's literally where the game came from. You wouldn't have a remake of that game if it wasn't for the original who started it all. So those were all the points that I wanted to debunk, and while I don't agree with the sentiment of there shouldn't be remakes or remasters, I feel like some of the points are kind of valid, especially when it comes to the overwhelming fatigue and also wanting to see the series move on and not just be stuck in the past. Alright, so let's flip a coin and talk about the arguments on why we need more remakes and remasters. On the flip side, JRPGs are uniquely suited for remakes, mostly because of the whole library of classics. And while yes, there is technical limitations, poor localizations, or outdated mechanics, that could all be cleaned up with a remake or remaster. A well-done remake could introduce more stories to a whole different generation, especially for the players who missed out. I, for example, did not grow up with Dragon Quest III, Super Mario RPG, or Star Ocean. So a lot of these remakes for me was an introduction to the series. Most of the remakes I've played, I've never played the original. And I guess that's why I feel so strongly about remakes or remasters, because I never really grew up playing any JRPGs. I started to really dive into the genre like after high school, so 2013 forward. So there are a lot of games that I missed out. And these remakes and remasters gives the perfect avenue for me to experience these games. That's why I get so excited to see another one, because 9 times out of 10 I've never played the original, so that would be my first introduction into the game. And while it's a unique kind of perspective, especially when a lot of other RPG and JRPG YouTubers have been literally playing JRPGs since they were little, while in my case I'm just trying to catch up. And while yes, I may not have the sage experience when it comes to a lot of the classics, I'm happy that I get to play them. Now I did game for a majority of my life, but I used to only play Nintendo first party games. I don't know what was wrong with me back then. So that's just my perspective on that. Call me a noob or a fake JRPG lover, I don't care. I have so many games to enjoy. And it's also good for the community as well, because there's probably other people who get to experience these games for their first time, which in turn introduces new people to the fandom. Now, depending who you ask, another good thing about remakes or remasters is the fact that you get to play these games more cheaper. A lot of JRPGs from the PlayStation 2 era, the SNES era, are notoriously expensive on sites like eBay. This doesn't happen in every case, but when a remake comes out, you automatically see the price of the original game go down. Or some of them just don't even, they're still expensive, but you have the option to play it somewhere else on more modern consoles. A good example is a copy of Earthbound can average to $300, which is an outrageous price, especially when you consider that it was like about $30 back in the day. Now, I'm not here to rant on retro prices or retro stores. I feel like they have a place in the gaming industry, especially if you want to buy the original software, whether it be because you're a big fan or because you like it in your collection. It's up to you, but I'm happy that we don't always have to rely on secondhand games. Oh, and plus, I sold a lot of my collection back when I was in college, so oops. Also, remakes and by proxy remasters addresses a lot of accessibility issues from the original game, and plus you could play it on more modern consoles. You don't really have to depend on the original hardware and have a better experience, because honestly, older JRPGs, while I do love them a lot, are plagued with dated mechanics. I'm talking slow animations, no maps for anything, clunky design, the list goes on. And some remakes change the gameplay altogether. And while there is a point that there is a lot of remakes and remasters, especially nowadays, the good outweighs the cons. When done right, they breathe new life into a dead IP or dead series and preserve important parts of the gaming history. And not only is it a good thing for new players, it's also a really good thing for fans. And you don't have to like sell a kidney to afford one game. But in the end, in a genre as rich and varied as RPGs and JRPGs, I really think that in this case, there should be room for both. And while I do see a lot of developers favor remakes or remasters over continuing a game, there are still really good new IPs being made. Now for the people who say the original is better, I honestly don't want to sound mean, but I just feel like they're being contrarian for no reason. I don't really get their point. Dismissing remakes as a lesser or inauthentic view of a game is not really good. But back on topic, the resurgence of all these remakes and remasters reminds me of why I love this genre so much and all the good moments where I get to play these games for the first time. Alrighty, that is the end of the video. Please hit that like button if you liked. I would appreciate it, and please consider subscribing if you're not yet subscribed. I do a lot of videos revolving around RPGs/JRPGs, list videos, discussion ones like this one. I'm trying to get to 9K by my birthday, which is on June 14th, so fingers crossed. Hopefully I'll get there. Also, please let me know what you think about this topic. Do you think there are way too many remakes and remasters? Do you think there's not enough? Or do you feel like there's a middle ground? I would love to hear it. So with all that being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the day, and as always, play a good game. Peace.